This week, I decided I wanted to spice up pumpkin carving a little bit. The coolest pumpkin I've ever made was this pumpkin I carved about 4 or 5 years ago now, that I was really happy with how it turned out. If you don't know who this is, you need a serious lesson in American history. Okay, it's John Wayne. Anyway, I decided this year that I wanted to spice things up a little bit and give something new a try. I've seen these incredible 3D sculpted pumpkins that just look so cool. I kind of wanted to do something different than just marking out holes, using the little saw to cut them out. I wanted to do something kind of really cool this year for pumpkin carving. So I decided to try 3D carving pumpkins, or sculpting, whatever you want to call it. I should say my expectations for this project are not super high because I've never done sculpture before. I've never worked with sculpting tools, anything like that, and I am not a master artist at any of that kind of stuff. So I don't think I'm going to be carving pumpkins like this. I think that mine are going to be fairly simple, but a good start at trying to learn a different way of carving pumpkins. The only thing I need, of the people I've seen online, the only things I need are little clay carving tools that you can pick up at Hobby Lobby for pretty cheap. So I'm going to go pick up those and get some pumpkins, and we're going to give this a try. Apparently Hobby Lobby doesn't open until 9. And since it is currently 8:20, I'm not going to wait around for it to open. The last one. In order to carve a good pumpkin, you have to be a connoisseur of picking out pumpkins. I want to find a couple of pumpkins that are different shapes so that I can figure out which one would best match the shape of Jack Skellington's head. When you're kind of doing the 3D carving, you only have so much of the pumpkin wall to work with before you punch through to the center. So a guy has to be kind of careful and find the pumpkin that's in the right kind of shape for what you're trying to do. So I'm just going to start out by peeling the pumpkin. Here I'm using a vegetable peeler, but you can also use a knife. I'm just going to peel off the skin as far as I need to make the image happen on the front. Then of course I'm going to take out the top and peel out the guts. For this pumpkin I'm going to use the image of Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas, and I'm going to try to round out his face and try to make it as 3D as possible. To mark out his face, at first I tried to use a Sharpie, but found out it didn't really work very well. So then I found this scribing tool that came in a little pumpkin carving kit, and that worked pretty well. As you can see, I've got the lines traced out here, the shape of the eyes, the nose, the mouth. It worked pretty well. Now I'm going to start out by peeling out the eyes and the nose so that I can start making them stick out a little bit more. Just so I could get a feel for the 3D features of Jack Skellington's face, I pulled up kind of a 3D image here with the shadows on it so that I can try to make the eyes stick out, make them round. In here I'm using the carving tools to kind of scrape out the inside of the eyes to make them really smooth. So as you can see, I kind of got a round look on the eyes, and I'm making the edge of the eye stick out a little bit more. This is kind of tedious work, but it is a lot of fun, especially when you're trying to get to know the tools a little bit better. Now it's time to move on to the mouth, so I'm going to cut out that shape, cut a nice line in it, and then try to make the teeth stick out a little bit. Now when I was carving the teeth on this, I found out that cutting a hole in it for the mouth was actually kind of a mistake because the teeth got too fragile, and when I tried to round them out, they just started to peel off like they were going to break. Alright, now it's time to light it up.
Just broke it.
Okay, so I'm relatively happy with how this turned out. It's a cool looking pumpkin, but I don't know, it doesn't really look 3D. It just doesn't bring out, it doesn't look anything like what I thought it would. So I think I'm going to give it another try. We're getting another pumpkin. We're trying this again. Gosh. Carving a 3D pumpkin is really hard. Let me just say, I didn't think it would be easy. Stuff like this looks incredible, and I don't mean to say that that looks easy, but I didn't think that it would be so difficult to even make the simplest designs, like putting an eye onto the pumpkin or a nose or anything. I didn't think it would be that. I didn't think it would be so difficult. Gosh, the guys that are making them just make it look so slick, and you know, like it. Oh yeah, it's just like working with clay or butter or something. It just comes right off. Well, you got to put like pressure on it, and I don't know if my tools like aren't very sharp. It's hard to carve that pumpkin. Like it's wet and soggy, and yet really kind of hard at the same time. Hard to peel or hard to get chunks out of it. So we're gonna give it one more try today. I am gonna try a simpler design today. So I contacted a friend of mine named John Lopez. He's gonna teach me a few tips on how to do sculpting, which is really cool. If you don't know who he is, he's the guy that makes those statues out of scrap iron, old parts. They are really, really cool. We'll see how it turns out today. Tonight I decided to try something a little bit simple. I decided to try to do one of the Minions from Despicable Me because they have big cartoonish features. They are a little simpler looking, and it seemed like it would be a good starting place to try on my second pumpkin since my first one didn't turn out very well. Something I thought would be cool here is to carve out part of the dark orange pumpkin and shape it down to eye shape and then use a toothpick to secure it in place to make the eyes stand out a little bit more. Here's how my wife's pumpkin turned out, which is pretty cool. It's an owl. So this is my pumpkin one day later, and as you can tell, it's in pretty rough shape. Especially when that nose piece fell out, it got kind of soggy. And his mouth looks like it's seen better days. Ugh, gross. So after this pumpkin failed, what I started to do was try sculpting different things in it around the side just for some practice. As you can see here, like I tried to do a shape out a nose, I tried some different eye shapes, and I couldn't quite get the feel for it. It was still a lot of fun. It's fun to practice this, but it's really hard to do. I would recommend buying the biggest pumpkin you can find and then just peeling the entire thing and trying out different stuff like this. Just trying to make different shapes, carve different things into it, and see how it turns out like I did here. So here we have the final pumpkin that I tried. I tried to make a Minion. It turned out okay, but it just doesn't look quite right. My sculpting skills definitely need some work. It is cool to see it 3D sticking out like that. That part's a lot of fun. But, his face isn't flat like it's supposed to be. His mouth turned out okay, but his teeth just aren't as pronounced as I want them to be. Overall, it turned out pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. I tried lighting it up, but the wall isn't thin enough, like no light really shines through, so that was kind of a disappointment, but it's a good start. I even tried to do the bottom of his bib overalls there, but they didn't turn out.
Maybe I'll just redo the first part of the video and tell people I'm making a Ninja Turtle.
So did this project turn out like I thought it would? Not exactly. Working with these various carving tools was a ton of fun. Like, I don't really have any tips on how to do it better. It just takes time to kind of learn how to use these. It's something you kind of notice. A different angle takes off more or less. The different tools, how well they might work. It really just takes practice, and if I'm being honest, this was still a lot of fun. It was, it takes a long time, but it was a lot of fun to mess around with these and try to get it right. I'm excited to give it another try after I talk to John Lopez and learn some sculpting tips. I think that if a guy has never done sculpture before, clay might be the best medium to start with. A pumpkin is hard to carve. Like it comes apart, like pieces come out of it. It's slick. It's just kind of different. So I think I would rather try something like clay and get that skill down pretty well before I try to tackle something like a pumpkin again. So if pumpkin carving is boring for you, I highly recommend picking up a set of these tools for less than $10 and giving it a try. It was a good experience, and even if it doesn't turn out right, like my pumpkin didn't turn out quite how I wanted it, these are fun to use. It was fun to do. Using clay might also help to figure out how the different shadows go, or like how to give sculpture that look that you really want it to have. So was this a complete success? No. Was it a complete failure? Also no. It was fun. I have kind of a goofy looking Minion pumpkin, and ultimately it was very entertaining. It was a lot of fun. So I highly recommend it.